You cast your line and reel the legends in. Johnny K, the Keswicky and King. Let the funk begin. Whoa, autograph fisherman, you're reeling in the stars. King of through the mail, collecting near and far. Your heart is solid gold, your passion's burning bright. Autograph fisherman, you're shining every night.
And today we are going to be reacting to a good friend of mine, Zach's collection. This is going to be one of his BS and beers. And man, I love BS and beer. He also does Shank Pack Thursdays, which is an amazing thing. That's a lot of entertainment, but this one, there's just something a little extra special with this one for me. I'm really like learn things, and things that come to mind with these ones are a little bit crazy. Not crazy, but just things you don't think of. And he does explain what kind of stuff they talk about. So I can't quite remember. Okay, so we have the Samaritan Man and a Duchess, the Abyss. I'm still having tooth problems, so yeah. So remember your thumbs up. Remember to subscribe. So let's see what Zach has to say. Let's see if it's going to even play.
And a good Friday
Here we
evening
go.
to you all. We are back, and look, I know our luck hasn't been good. Well, my luck hasn't been good. 5 weeks in a row, we've had to go to the backup beer, but I have a feeling that this changes tonight. Because in this bottle right here is our beer in question. This is the Abyss from Deschutes Brewing in Bend, Oregon. This was brewed in 2009, so that would put it...
That's not the Abyss. That's the Abyss. Or that's the Abyss.
At 17 years old, but this has a lot going for it. Come on, why? There we go. Stout aged with licorice and molasses and 33% aged in oak and bourbon barrels. As you can see, yeah, best after. So they put the date on it right then. Where's the alcohol percentage? Okay, so it is 11% alcohol by volume, and it is an American-style imperial stout. It does have wax on it, so we'll be back in a minute because I have to take a knife to that, and then the comically oversized snifter will be used tonight. All right, we are back. It is opened. Oh, it's a great day for the parish.
Nice.
We have a beer we can drink, and I don't have to go back to the backup beer. I say in just vain hope. But it was wax covered. Come on. Still got a good amount of carbonation. Not bad for 17 years old and 11%. But there we go. Fingers crossed. Time to flip. Time to talk weird. Fingers still crossed. Smells roasty. This is...
No, I know. Let's see if I can wind it a little bit so you guys can see. A little bit too far, but that picture in the background, I know I've mentioned it to you, looks just like, it reminds me a little bit too much of the George Animal Steel.
This is, let's see, the Abyss. Stout brewed with licorice and molasses with 33% aged in oak and oak bourbon barrels. Smells very roasty. A lot of coffee. 11%. Was it 11? Yes, 11 on the button. Please. Ooh, that is good.
Nice.
That is smoky. and delightful. I like that a lot. Praise unto Bacchus. Finally got one I don't have to go back to the fridge for. Like I say, it's a great day for the parish.
I love licorice. And anything smoky, sign me up.
So, what are we talking about tonight? The thumbnail really didn't leave much to the imagination just because of the nature of what is going on. For this one, we have to go to the land down under. We're going to Australia, more specifically to South Australia, the state of, and more specifically to some of the suburbs of the capital city of South Australia, that being Adelaide. Shout out Rhea Ripley, because that's where she's from. So I can
Nice.
say that because there ain't no way she's ever going to see this. This is the tale of the Somerton Man. And it goes back to 1948,
Somerton.
November the 30th, 1948, actually. A jeweler by the name of John Bain Lyons and his wife were walking along Somerton Beach, and I think it's actually Somerton, not Somerton, like I kind of pronounced it first time, which is a resort town a couple miles south of the city of Adelaide. So as they're walking toward the neighboring suburb of Glenelg, they notice a very well-dressed man just lying on the beach on the sand, his head propped up against the seawall, and this is about 50, 60 feet away from them, as they would later say. His legs completely outstretched and his feet crossed in what would be assumed a relaxed position. He extended his right arm upward and then let it fall back to the ground, almost in a drunken attempt to smoke a cigarette. Well, and that was around 7 o'clock in the evening. I can't remember if I mentioned that or not. About a half an hour later or so, another couple comes by and notices the exact same man lying in the exact same position. And at this point, they're looking down on him from above, where he was lying. And they notice, like, he's dressed in a very nice suit. New shoes that had been basically polished to a mirror shine. And if you think about it, very kind of odd clothing for somebody to be wearing on a beach.
Mm-hmm.
He was lying there completely still, left arm outstretched over the sand. And the couple kind of looked at each other, probably decided, I was simply asleep, just lying there in the sand, sleeping it off, or just asleep in general. The boyfriend would apparently joke, he must be dead to the world, and not because he didn't notice them. Well, kids, that's what we would like to call in the business foreshadowing. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. So as I reach for the snifter, and I also have to say that while this...
Yeah, see, that's a difficult thing because if that guy was just relaxing and somebody called out, hey, are you okay? That guy would probably get quite mad, I would imagine. Quite annoyed, I should say. Maybe not mad, but annoyed.
This is still kind of a mystery. They're almost fairly certain that they've solved it. However, that's dependent on one thing, and we will get to that in a little bit. But as I said before, you talk about foreshadowing with the boyfriend. You'll see what I mean in just a minute, just who or what the deal with the Somerton Man was. Now, as it's been sitting out and decanted, essentially, a lot of that smoky flavor is kind of dissipated, which you would kind of expect. And now what's left is a lot more chocolate. Just like dark bitter, like baker's chocolate. So slightly bitter. but you know it's like dark cocoa. That smoke flavor is still there, and it is still very nice. And it's not like some of the the German smoked lagers that's like you're drinking a campfire, not drinking near a campfire, drinking a campfire. Yeah, that's like light smoke, just enough to let you know it's there, but not to completely overpower it. Now, remember what I said?
Talking about smoking a campfire, Zach, you would probably remember these days how many beers have you accidentally drank that somebody threw a finished cigarette butt in? Just wondering. And that's the kind of thoughts I get when I watch not just Zach, but lots of videos. How many have you drank?
Said about foreshadowing, let's get back to the tale of the Somerton Man. Because it wasn't until the next morning that it became obvious that the man wasn't exactly dead to the world. He was actually dead. The man that couple looked down on around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, the prior evening, was in fact deceased. So shortly after 6:30 a.m., December the 1st, the jeweler, John Bain Lyons, actually comes back from a swim and finds a bunch of people kind of gathered around that seawall where he'd seen that man the previous evening. Well, he walks over, and what does he see? He sees a figure in pretty much the same position, head leaning up against the seawall, feet crossed, that he had seen the previous evening. Now, however, the body had gone cold because, you know, it said when he and his wife first encountered the Somerton Man at around 7 or so, like he actually had lifted his arm, so he was still alive at that point. But by the time the second couple arrived, he was not. So, you know, the body had gone cold. And here's now where it starts to become interesting. There were absolutely no marks of any violence that they could see, no marks of any sort of foul play. A half-smoked cigarette was lying on his collar, kind of as if it had fallen from his mouth, and in all honesty, depending on when he had managed to light said cigarette, that's very well what could have happened. Now, a few weeks later, on January the 14th, 1949, they discovered at the Adelaide railway station a suitcase that was believed to have belonged to the still unidentified Somerton Man. It had some clothing, some various tools of sorts, but no ID of any kind whatsoever. So now comes the time of the autopsy. Pathologist John Dwyer finds in the man's stomach the remains of his last meal, a pasty, not that one in particular, but I just like to put it up there because if you've never had one, pasties are delicious, and a further quantity of blood, which kind of suggests that this man had been poisoned, though there was no indication that the food, the pasty itself, had been poisoned. Now, maybe how he was, you know, behaving on the beach, seeming to be drunk, you know, the slumped over, the drunken raising of the hand, and the dropping of it, and the failure to be able to light a cigarette. Maybe instead of, you know, being drunk, maybe that was perhaps the effects of a lethal dose of some sort of poison. I mean, that does stand to reason, especially with a lot of blood in his stomach. However, the pasty itself didn't appear to be poisoned. And the even more interesting part, they tested both the blood and organs by expert chemists and failed to reveal any trace of any sort of poison.
Mhm.
Dwyer admitted at the inquest in 1949 that, quote, "I was astounded that he found nothing," end quote.
Huh.
Because of this, they were not able to list an official cause of death because they could actually find no official cause of death. This is interesting. So you have now a lifeless body of an unidentified man. They found that suitcase, from December 1st to mid-January, so about 6 weeks later at the railway station.
Take the last train to Foxville, I'll be waiting at the station. We'll have time for coffee, for later kisses.
No ID whatsoever, no indication of who he was. He didn't have any ID. Didn't seem that he knew anybody. So the craziest question is, who is this guy? Where did he come from?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come?
What is going on?
Scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on?
And more to the point, how did he seemingly die?
See, I get so focused in what he's saying because this is so interesting. Like, these are mysteries that you never hear about, and that's why I like BS and beer.
Being poisoned. With absolutely no traces of poison found in the food, in his blood, or in any of his organs that tests run by an expert chemist could reveal. With the pathologist himself, the man who examined him, admitting that he was astounded that the chemist found nothing. But like I said, they think they've solved it. So as we get to the final part of this is a little bit of a shorter episode because, like I say, the details were sketchy, but it's looking like they may have solved it. But again, it hinges on one thing in particular, but another sit is forthcoming and rightfully earned, in my opinion.
Yes, it is. Cheers.
Now the smoke is starting to kind of pull back, and the chocolate and the bitterness is starting to come forward, and it's balancing out very nicely. I very, very much like that one. Now, getting back to the wrapping up of the tale of the Somerton Man. Here's where it gets even weirder. I know, I say that a lot, and you would think I shouldn't be able to say that all the time with the regularity I do, yet here we are. They did find something. They found, printed on a scrap of paper that was found months later, not sure when, but months later, in the fob pocket of the still unidentified Somerton man's trousers. Printed on this piece of paper was a Persian phrase, "Tamam shud." And there's the paper right there, which translates essentially to "it is over" or "it is finished." Wow, doesn't that add an interesting little wrinkle? So obviously, they need to start to figure it out. They make a public appeal by the police. Eventually, they figure out what book this page had been torn from. So they find the book. Inside the back cover, detectives could read indentations left from previous handwriting, a local telephone number, well, here we go, another unidentified number, and text that resembled a coded message. Now, here's the unfortunate part. The text has not been deciphered or interpreted in any sort of way that gives the authorities any sort of satisfaction. Now, and obviously, you have to have speculation, and because there was very little to be known about this man other than his physical appearance, the one thing that was mentioned is he had very, very muscular calves. And speculation then kind of grew from there that, the strong calves implied that he was potentially a ballet dancer or potentially both a ballet dancer and a Soviet spy. There's not really any sort of evidence to put that on there. But now we have to fast forward several decades. The death mask of the Somerton Man, which is an interesting practice, the death mask as an entity. But
I can buy the ballerina. The time of, I think everyone would have been a Soviet spy at that time. You know what I mean?
we'll get to that.
Death mask. I know all
Anyway,
about those.
They looked at the death mask, and then they realized that there was hair in the death mask. So, what do we do? And mind you, this is rapidly approaching the present time. They run DNA tests, and they find a match for the hair. How much of a match and how confident did they feel about it? Right there. In 2021, they exhumed the body of the Somerton Man. 2021. This is still, he has not been identified. They exhumed the body, and through the DNA testing that they conducted on the hair found in the death mask of the Somerton Man, it has been determined, for the time being, again, it hinges on one thing, that this man right here, a man by the name of Carl Webb, who was born in 1905 in Melbourne, was likely the most likely match, based on the hair that was in the death mask. But remember the one thing I said about how it all hinges on something? Well, that's the truth. Is in reality, it all hinges on, was that death mask actually the death mask of the Somerton Man? Because if it was, then they pretty much have a slam dunk. But because of the time period, there is still just enough doubt to make you question it.
Yes, I agree.
And that's the stuff I love. I love being able to, even in the face of like nearly overwhelming evidence, there's still that little kernel of doubt that exists. Like, yes, they have matched the DNA from the death mask of the Somerton Man to this man, Carl Webb. But what if that death mask was not the death mask of the Somerton Man?
Exactly.
More than likely is, but at the same time, you just never know. And again, a link to an article I found that I read that was very interesting will be down below. And that is going to do it. Just an interesting tale. And one of those things that it is kind of nice to be able to pretty much definitively say something, although I did go down several rabbit holes very recently involving stuff that I found on Instagram. Yeah, there's a lot of unexplained stuff that's going to be coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be fun. But on that note, I'm going to raise my glass, my comically oversized snifter filled with actually beautiful 17-year-old The Abyss from Deschutes Brewing Company, and I will say cheers, my friends. Oh, that is warming, and the alcohol is starting to bloom.
Nice.
It changes in the glass. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm here for it. So that is going to do it for this Friday evening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great weekend. Let's go over, say hello to Aaron at Aloha Friday. And I'm going to leave you with this final parting thought, my friends. If you think about it, you can never stand backwards on a staircase. Have a good night, everybody.
So, you can never stand backwards on a staircase. I'm sure I can figure a way out. You see, if you happen to be Deadpool now, could Deadpool technically stand backwards because he could turn his head around and have his head going backwards and his front going forwards. Would that technically count as standing backwards? Either way, hope you enjoyed. Like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, keep on collecting. Bye.